Good morning. This is Cody here for Checkpoint 3 on our final presentation. Still going to address my research question of how do different pack weights affect knee strain and gait in soldiers on long road marches, and what can be done to reduce fatigue and injury. Um, and so far, I've been able to accumulate the 5 different articles, and after synthesizing them this week, some of the consistent ideas that I've found is that there is enough information that does suggest that there is an increased strain and injury risk from the load carriage, um, and that is from across 8 to 32 kilogram pack weights when they've been studied. Um, some of the studies annotated how or identified that there is reduced muscle activation stability while under load, which can increase to higher injury risk. Um, they identified that there is an effect on the gait, um, that sometimes that the gait may be wider or shorter, just overall increasing that instability of those that are under the load. They also indicate that it can be um, adaptable. So they can adapt, humans or the individuals can adapt to the loads in a U or a J shaped pattern. But prolonged time under load uh, will lead to fatigue and reduced performance. Um, so some of the differences and conflicts that I've seen is that one study was having people walk in a circular or oval shape on a track. Another one had its members walk on a treadmill because they were testing the incline. Um, there's also been some uh, variances in the uh, how they were taking measurements, whether it was with an EMG or no EMG. Some of the studies had a uh, like a center loaded pack. Others had it more on a backpack. So seeing how those different types of packs may affect in the long run would be beneficial. And then one study also included the use of a dummy rifle, which, from personal experience, I know that that can change your gait as well. And so just the different things there, I felt that was pretty interesting. Um, Also, the participants used were very different across the different studies. One looked at um, experienced versus inexperienced, but they were still cadets at the collegiate level. So the level of experience still is not that in which you would look at in a regular population that are doing these ruck marches. Um, and then also one study specifically only looked at males. Um, so yeah, so some of the gaps that I feel like I've identified so far is that I haven't been able to find a good study on a prolonged march. They've all been relatively short trials. None have lasted longer than an hour. If anything, they've been almost 4 to 15 minutes um, per study. Um, and again, another gap was there hasn't been extremely or has not been a lot of information on the females population. Um, and I've still yet to find one study or a group of studies that are specifically looking at the knee strain um, on the um, during the ruck march. Um, and so the conversation that I found in the literature to basically say like what it's saying is that that load carriage, mainly heavier loads, around that 16 to 32 kilogram um, span, will disrupt the gait stability. It will mess with the neuromuscular control, uh, and it will potentially increase risk of injury for the knee and increase fatigue during those long marches. Um, And then the one study that I found with the exoskeletons, that was more so looking at what can be done to reduce the fatigue. And that study was essentially saying that uh, there's many different options right now for exoskeletons, and they can be addressed at um, the knee, ankle, or hip, or at least rather worn at those positions. They can be powered, they can be unpowered, and those can be used as a method to reduce the fatigue. Um, and while the loads do increase risk, uh, the risk likelihood can be mitigated or potentially decreased through appropriate loading. Progressive overload is one term that we could use. Um, so to try to work the candidates or the participants up to being able to handle those heavier loads, because the gait is more than likely going to be altered regardless of the load. So making sure that the body is prepared to handle that load could be one of the more important aspects to use and address, um, as well as making sure that the load is as centered on the body as possible, using potentially using a web belt to help distribute that load, along with the backpack straps. If you just have the backpack, it may not be as centered or keeping the load on the body. Um, I believe that covers most of the questions. Um, yeah, if there is anything else, please let me know. Thanks.